Welcome to the Aligned Powerhouse, the podcast for executive women who are done leading from burnout and ready to rise from alignment. I'm your host, Dr. Brittany McGeehan, licensed psychologist, high performance and mindset coach, and guide for high achieving women who are ready to lead, live, and love without abandoning themselves. Here, we unpack the nervous system truths, mindset shifts, and emotional patterns that drive your leadership so you can build power from the inside out. Let's get into it. All right. Hello. Welcome back. Okay. Today we are talking about one of my favorite subjects. And this episode is dedicated to all of the scaling founders who are out there right now, who are we're all just kind of losing our minds a little bit right now. Okay. So we are going to talk about the unexpected cost of scaling and my secret weapon, what we really need. Because so what I hear over and over again is you need more business coaching. You need more this. You need a sales skill. You need whatever, fill in the blank. Everyone has an answer for you. Okay. Myself included. Everyone is going to tell you what it is that you need to be doing, but they are missing the overall overarching one system that is going to keep you in flow to continue to use these skills, but also the internal infrastructure and architecture that you need emotionally and internally in order to be able to, because scaling by nature is transformation. It's transition into something bigger, especially true scaling. A really common, misconception that I hear people talk about is they'll say, I'm scaling because they're adding to their services list. They are adding to the pressure that they bring in. They're doing an additional training. And now I'm going to say that I'm scaling, right? I did this in 2025, last year, 2025. I was like, I'm scaling because I started a second business. Wrong. I was growing. All I did was add more to my list. I added more pressure. I added more things for me to do. True, genuine scaling is a science. There is a process to it, and it is about getting you out of the weeds and into a space of genuine foundership, CEO-ship, being the brand ship. Okay. So this is a really important distinction. I'm not talking to those of you who are out here growing, and that's a very important stage of business. That is just a very different business model. Now, some of these concepts are going to apply across the board, okay? Because what we're talking about is identity. This is the piece that I see is missing. And then the vehicle to get there, which is regulation, okay? So at the end of today, you're going to have a checklist, a blueprint of how to really move through this process and why you need it in the first place. Okay. But really, this is geared toward people who are scaling, meaning they are taking themselves out of the weeds. So, there's a book called The Science of Scaling, right? There's another one called Buy Back Your Time. There's a literal process to this. So first is that you outsource admin. Second is that you outsource yourself. You start recreating yourself. The reason this distinction is so important to today's episode is because there is a huge loss of control that comes when you truly start to build a company versus a founder-driven, service-based business. In a service-driven, founder-based business, you remain in control. In that situation, the name of your game is identity is going to help. Regulation, of course, is going to help. That's just a different episode, right? There's not a loss of control in that. What I'm talking about is when you start to hand off the reins to someone else for your sales process, for your client delivery services, that is a whole different level of loss of control. Okay. And I don't know about your circles, but in mine, we are in it. We're in it. Okay. So Let's jump right in. Here is, I think, the story that every scaling founder has in their mind is that scaling is going to make me more stable. Scaling is going to provide me with more time and money. It's going to be sexy. And once I hit that 7 figures, like, watch out. And that is simply not the case. It's not even the case after you hit 7 figures. After you hit 7 figures, yes, there are certain doors that open. There are certain tables that you then can go and sit at, which are very different than the ones you were able to when you were in, especially that pressure cooker of 500K to 7 figures. But the problems remain the same. And so what I see people coming into my office, what I see that they are doing is they will come in and they will say, I need more time, I need more money, I need my home life to be more stable. And I'm not against those things, but a quicker way to get there, because again, if we focus on the wrong thing, then we're not going to make the progress at the speed that you want to. Truly, what you need is an expanded sense of self. You need an aligned identity. Okay. Now, I feel like we see this everywhere, especially right now. So I really want to break this down from a developmental, from a psychological perspective. I want to talk about what identity is, how you build it, and then how you expand it. Okay. So let's jump in and actually, immediately changing my mind a little bit. We're going to talk about identity, but first I want to give you an example of what this looks like, what this sounds like in my circles. So I'm going to give you an example. I was talking with a client a few weeks ago, and she was so exhausted, right? Like the energy was like, we were on Marco and like shoulders were coming down. She was slumped a little bit and it was just like, woo, right? And still excitement. There was still energy, but like also she was tired. And she was literally like, we were talking about how as you are scaling, as you are growing, you will have the highest of highs and then you will have the lowest of lows. And that is the game that no one talks about. Is scaling in and of itself is a science. Everyone likes to make it more complicated than it is. It's really not. It is just about how much control can you tolerate letting go of? How much perfectionism can you let go of? How many times can you fail and still continue to move forward? But the process of making money is not mystical or anything like that. It's not. It's a science, and then it's what tools do you use to stabilize along the way, right? So this client is telling me that she just got this incredible, I'm so excited, incredible speaking opportunity that is truly going to change in terms, like she's just going to get phenomenal film from this. She is going to get incredible, here's what I think. She's going to get amazing film. She's going to get amazing feedback, but also she is in front of an aligned audience. So I also think that her company is going to grow. And then I also foresee her getting additional speaking invitations from this event. This is a really huge opportunity, such a high. The company as a whole is moving forward in terms of leadership. She is addressing things that in the past had been put to the side. Like, we're killing it over here. And then, okay, I am going to jump in here just for a second. If this episode is resonating a little hard, I want you to know that if you are a high-performing woman who knows exactly what to do, you know what behaviors are going to take you to the next level, but you're not executing at the level that you should be for the woman that you are, I want you to know this is not a strategy problem. This is a nervous system capacity issue, and it is costing you time, energy, and momentum. The retreat that I lead, the Elevated Leader, is designed to change that fast. Like, we are talking 3 days fast. We don't sit around and talk about your goals. We identify what is actually interfering with execution, and we rewire it real time so that by the end of the weekend, you are leaving with clarity, self-trust, and the ability to move quickly, cleanly, and consistently without the self-doubt and anxiety. This is a small, bespoke,
high touch experience. Every team is created specifically for the women that are invited into each weekend, and therefore only a few women are invited in per cohort. If you are ready to stop circling the same patterns and actually take steps to move forward, I want you to join the waitlist. Link is in the show notes. All right, now let's get back to the show.
In the same 24 hours, she got feedback from a very dissatisfied client. Okay. And this is not unique to this story. So as she's processing through, she is like, oh my gosh. And really she was coming back to this idea of like, okay, welcome to the big leagues. I don't know if it's Alex Hormozy, I don't know who talks about it, but some of the one business guru talks about until you get a dissatisfied client, until you get feedback, until you get negative feedback, you're really not in the arena. So you getting this feedback actually means like, welcome to the game. It is actually a huge indicator of success, right? Now, I love you too, baby. Of course, you are going to address it in a professional way, and then you're going to go and work with a team on, hey, what happened here? But the reality is, statistically, if you are playing at a bigger game, you are not going to be able to satisfy every single person that walks through your front doors, nor should you be trying to. If you are, then you are in a space of overfunctioning. Again, specifically if you are scaling a company and if you are product-based, something like that, right? And so really what we were processing and kind of going back and forth on was the real name of the game, the real challenge here is being able to regulate. And the meta of what she was doing was she was expanding her identity. Okay, she was stepping out of founder-led business owner, and she was stepping into a scaling Goliath of a company that is just phenomenal and growing and is exploding with growth right now. And those are two very different identities. When we start businesses, we are in the game of pleasing everyone who walks in our door, and we don't say lots of no's because we have to keep the lights on. We like the boundaries look different. The energetic process looks different as we grow. If we are going to truly hand off control and allow someone else to deliver services, we are going to have to open ourselves up to rejection, to failure, to a lack of perfectionism. This is the name of the game. But again, that sense of identity is very, very different, right? Now you are the architect, building a system and holding a team responsible for client outcomes, for product delivery, versus in the past of I am excellent at my job. And here's the thing, if you've not taken time to sit and think about, okay, what were my values over here as being in the weeds, as being the person who created the product, right? What did I value versus then coming over here as scaling founder, 7-figure business owner. Now, what are my values? Because they have to look different. And I'll give you an example, okay? Because again, when you are the one providing the product, when you are the one providing the service, excellence tends to be at the top of a values list.
I am going to scooch in here just for a quick second. If you are a woman who is already doing the work, but you know that there is another level of peace, clarity, revenue that you haven't accessed yet, this is for you. Most high-performing women do not have a capability or a skill set problem. They are simply focusing their energy in the wrong place at the wrong time. The capacity index quiz shows you the one lever that will create immediate traction with where you are at today. In just 2 minutes, you will know exactly where to focus so that you can move faster, lead cleaner, and stop wasting energy. Take the quiz. Link is in the show notes.
speed tends to be at the top of a values list, going above and beyond, over delivering. These are all things that I hear from clients, from networking conversations, from all of the gurus on social media, right? Those are values and indicators that you are in the weeds and you are delivering services. Versus, I can speak for myself as a scaling founder. What I value now, it looks different. There is still a company mission of we deliver excellent services, but it's bigger now. Now I value training and allowing other people to step into their expertise. Now I value hiring the right person and then handing them the technical skills that they need, versus I was much more technically focused when I was the person who was delivering the services. But if you want to grow a business, you got to decide which way you're going to lean. You're not going to find someone who is perfect in every single way. Now I value building a team with those who can learn. Now I value bringing in more numbers, right? Like it changes. And even distinguishing this from the mission of the company is so important, because here's what this looks like zooming out, right? Is in this conversation, what did not happen to this client was she did not spiral. She didn't start beating herself up. She didn't start saying, I'm going to pull the plug on the whole business and I'm done and I shouldn't have ever done that. Like, none of those things happened, because identity at its core is all about how you make meaning of your behaviors and your experiences. Like, we can make it as complicated as we want to, but like, if you got a journal, I want you to pull it out and I want you to write down, identity is how you make meaning of your behavior and of your experiences. If you are in a service-based mentality and identity, if you're the person delivering the services, you are going to make meaning of a client coming back and saying, this is the worst, what the heck is going on? That is going to feel a lot more personal. Versus a scaling founder identity hears that and says, there's an operational leak here somewhere. We need to go in and clarify communications. We need to align expectations. We need to make sure that we're allocating resources appropriately. Systemically, there is a hole here that I've not seen. Also, this is what happens when we expand and we take up more space. Statistically, we're going to start to get different kinds of feedback. So the other thing a scaling founder is going to do is they are going to take feedback with a grain of salt. They're going to go in and they are not always going to receive feedback that is handed, right? It looks different. And notice no part of that process, that meaning-making process, has anything to do with this human being on the other end of it. It's not personal. It is developmental. In the same way that when a toddler comes and is crying because they freaking know what they want, but they don't have the language skills and they do not have the body ability to go and do those things themselves. They're frustrated. It's not because you're a bad mom. It's not because they're a bad toddler. Like, it literally has nothing to do with them. It's just developmental. Therefore, we don't make meaning of it, right? Healthy parents do not take it personal whenever their kiddo is engaging in a developmentally appropriate way. A healthy scaling founder is going to do the same thing. They're going to apply the same principles, because the reality is, if you want to grow, if you want to experience more visibility, then you are going to experience more criticism. You're going to experience more unsolicited feedback, simply because the range within which you're opening yourself up to is getting bigger. And that takes energy, that takes regulation, right? This is why I say the vehicle to build a new baseline is regulation. Because, right, so again, like, the thing that we are actually after is an expanded identity, one that is in alignment with the developmental space that we are in as a scaling founder. The way that we get there It is through some values work, but also like day to day, like this back and forthness, right? Again, this client, she was tired, but that is appropriate because she had spent the day one in like crisis control, put out the fires, let's have a conversation, let's jump in as we do as founders, but then also taking deep breaths, noticing there were sensations in her body that needed to come up and out, and shaking, right? Like shaking her arms, whatever it was, naming these things, giving them a voice, not internalizing them. She was regulating. And guys, and this is part of why when clients come and they do the retreat, they are tired come Monday because you have done some serious work. What we are doing is nervous system regulation work, right? But like in a really tight weekend. And what we are doing is we are training your nervous system to acclimate to an expanded sense of identity, really at the core of like what we're doing. That is also what she had done. That is really exhausting work. So we say, I want more visibility or I need more visibility, but we don't expect that we're going to be really tired. We expect to hustle, but we don't expect how much energetic work it takes just to keep yourself grounded rather than falling in, right? We say that we want more money. We say we want more revenue, more profit, but what we didn't expect was more pressure. What we didn't expect was the whiplash that comes with sustaining higher revenue marks. That takes work and it also takes time, right? All these people that are out here talking about, I had like a 7-figure month for 10 months in a row. I guarantee you those are the same people who come back and they say, hey, I burned out last year. Like, unless they have built this company over years and have true, genuine support and infrastructure and systems in place, like that stuff takes such a long time to build in a sustainable way. Most of the time, if you are operating that, especially if you've like jumped there in a year or 2 years, for me, like as a psychologist, that's a flag in that I bet your nervous system is burned out. I bet you're tired. Because to sustain more income, even energetically, the ability to receive abundance at that level, it takes a lot of work. And again, as you start to scale, as you start to hand off responsibility, and I am so guilty of this, is that there's this fantasy that you're pulling yourself out of the weeds, and then all of a sudden the team is going to help and they're going to make things lighter. Ooh, if I had $1 for every time I've heard this, I would be doing something different, right? Like we have this fantasy that once I have team and I have support, things are going to get easier. And here's the reality. They do give you a lift, especially in terms of revenue. And if you know how to hire and you know how to strategically put people in your company to build, they give you a lift. They also hand you more responsibility. They also hand you more structural requirements. They also hand you more regulation requirements because now you are still responsible for their work at the end of the day. Your butt is on the line if you are the founder. When that client comes and they're unhappy, guess what? They're not calling this person over here. They're saying, hey, I want to talk to you because you are responsible. So you are absorbing all of this additional responsibility and the messiness that comes with bringing people on. Now, do I think it's worth it? Like, yeah, I'm also someone who is in the process of doing this myself. Like, I absolutely believe, depending on the vision, depending on the goal, depending on what it is that you want in your business, it's very necessary. But I do believe that people have to have an appropriate and aligned expectations going into this in order to not just want to throw it all in the garbage. And you also have to have a plan in place in terms of like, how are you going to be able to keep moving forward? Because again, it takes more than people realize. So again, whenever you are thinking about building out this baseline, here's really what I want you to take away from this is that as you expand your baseline, I don't want you to associate being at baseline and having an expanded baseline as being calm. That takes work. It's a pendulum. You're going to swing from one extreme to the other extreme. And what I want you to write down is that just because you are in a moment of chaos or the swinging back and forth, this doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It simply means that you are regulating and you need to make sure that you have an aligned identity to regulate to. Otherwise, you're going to stay in the pendulum process, right? We've really been sold this idea that what we're chasing is the beach and we're chasing calm and we're chasing feeling good. And I think we need to really be honest with ourselves about, is this something that I really want? And if it is, how do I actually genuinely set myself up for success for the process? Because it's going to take a hot minute. Okay, guys? All right. I hope that today's episode was helpful. This is like a peek behind the scenes, a little look behind the curtain of what is going on in my world. I don't know what the stars are doing right now, but something's happening, because I can tell you that we are out here feeling it. And again, if you are the founder who is genuinely scaling, especially if you are in that 500 to 7-figure mark, I want you to think about what values serve you in this season. What is your guiding North Star? And how are you making meaning of your behaviors? Getting really specific about expanding that identity to your current season of business. All right, y'all. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you on the next one.
Alrighty, friend, that is all for today's episode of the Aligned Powerhouse podcast. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And do me a favor, if this episode resonated, I want you to share it with another powerhouse woman in your life who is ready to lead and love from a place of self-trust. And don't forget to follow, subscribe, and leave a quick rating or review. It really does help more women find this work. New episodes drop every week. Until then, lead with self-trust and let yourself be seen.